Hello, Ellie. I'm so delighted to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, I thought I'd start because I was reaching around on your website, which I've done many times, but I thought I'd start by reading a couple of lines that you have on your homepage, which for me is, you know, explains the whole reason why I'm interviewing you today, why we're friends, why I've invited you to be a guest expert in the Academy. So this is what you say on your homepage. You say, "I'm Eli Trier, and I believe that fostering authentic human connections with like-minded people is the fastest, easiest, and most heart-centered way for you to build your business."
Yep.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I don't think I've ever done this to your face, but I call you the Queen of Connection. That's my title.
I love that.
So you and I met many years ago now. We connected online, which,
Yep.
The magic of the internet. And so, when I first met you, we've never met in person, but when we first met online, you were an artist and a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I actually went to check because I found you through mymorningroutine.com.
That's right. Yeah.
We were both featured on that blog. And even back then, you described yourself as a collector of kindred spirits, which,
yeah.
As soon as I read that line, I knew we were kindred spirits. One of the reasons I reached out to you. So, but in your words, I'd love you to describe, your current business. Like, what is it that you do?
Well, I, in a nutshell, help people to get connected. I specialize in running online community projects, which are basically kind of long, deep, meaty online events where a bunch of people get together and talk about something that is important. And there's a community aspect, and there's the content aspect, and it all comes together to create this kind of lovely, brilliant piece of marketing, but also a really kind of deep connection with the people that you want to attract into your world, kind of around your business. And I also do teaching on what I've done for your membership group, which is the Art of Connection, which is about finding introvert-friendly, soulful, ethical ways to find your right people and bring them into your world around your business.
Wonderful. I love it. I mean, anyone who knows me, and probably the people watching this are, members of my audience, know how important community is to me, and also, this connection piece. And will probably have, hopefully, some of them experienced your recent community project. I was part of it, which was very exciting. All about community building.
Yeah, very meta.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was just wonderful. It was really wonderful. So I'm curious how you went basically from being an artist, illustrator and writer to this work. Like, what was the journey for you?
Oh, it was quite an epic journey, really. So I was working as a professional illustrator, artist. I was doing creativity coaching, had this kind of creative smorgasbord of ways of making a living. Kind of I think they call it a portfolio career. And one of the things that I was doing to market myself was I started doing these community projects. And the first one I did was never intended to be a marketing thing. It was called Demystifying the Artist. And it came from a conversation I had with a dear artist friend of mine, who is the epitome of what you think of when you think of a real artist. Like, that's her full-time living. She has exhibitions all over the world. She gets commissioned by kind of big, important people. I think she was commissioned by a sheikh. She's got work in, hotels and on cruise ships, and she's the real deal. And we were having a conversation, and she said something along the lines of, "Yeah, that's all very well, but I'm not a real artist because I don't do painting." Like, she does this beautiful paper cut work. And I said, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. If anyone's not a real artist, it's me. I just do these scribbly illustrations and put them in books, you know? And luckily, you know, at the time we both realized how ridiculous we were being. But the conversation really kind of stuck with me over the next few weeks. And I was like, well, if we're feeling like this, there's some kind of societal construct in place which is making us feel less than. It's making us feel like we are not proper, in inverted commas, you know, even though we're making a full-time living from our artwork, from making things. So I gathered together a bunch of my artist and creative friends, and I asked them the question, what does being an artist mean to you? And I got back these incredible submissions, like essays and videos, like really kind of pulling out the vulnerable parts of themselves and sharing them with people. And I put it together as a community project. I did this drip, drip, drip email thing and had a Facebook group. And it was phenomenal. I mean, it's the most successful thing I had ever done. Like, I mean, to put it into context, my mailing list at the time was about 200, 300 people. And we had 700 people sign up for that project. And, you know, a few hundred in the group, and people were talking in the group and making connections. It was super engaged. Friendships were being made, collaborations were being planned, people were sharing their own resources. And it was phenomenal. So I thought that was fantastic. Fairly convinced it was a fluke. So I did a couple more, and they were equally as amazing. And so that happened over the course of several years. And I got to a point where I was getting really tired of the work that I was doing, being kind of creative on demand. And I was getting really resentful, and I was feeling kind of all snarled up about it. My own creative practice had dwindled to nothing. Excuse me. And I decided that I just had enough of the whole thing. So I shut down my business in February of last year, 2018. And I deleted my website, all my social media accounts, my mailing list, everything. I was just like, I don't do this anymore. It's been fantastic, but I'm done. And I had a freelance gig that I knew would the contract was for a year, and I knew that would cover me for a few months. So I thought, well, I'll just do that, and I'll leave like the space wide open and see what wants to come in. Now, for the previous 2 or 3 years, I had been saying to anyone who would listen, I just wish I could do community projects. Like, that's all I want to do. And I'd even looked at like getting sponsorship for doing them, so I could, you know, make a living doing it that way. And I tried all sorts of different kind of ideas, and none of it felt right. And I was also fielding like a handful of emails almost every week from people emailing me and saying, I really want to run a community project. How do you make yours so fantastic? And I'd, you know, send them off a little email. Didn't twig until, oh gosh, 6 or 7 months after I closed the business down. So it was end of August, beginning of September. It just hit me like, oh my God, I could actually charge money for this, like to help people run these projects. And that was it. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. And a couple of weeks later, I had a website up, and I had people going through like my beta program, and that was that. And I love it. I feel like this is what I was born to do, which is, yeah, it's such a good feeling.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was thinking about, you know, the conversation this morning, and I knew I wanted to ask you about the transition, because it's quite a transition.
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, it strikes me, you know, as I witness your business and the work that you do, that it's your calling. It's the
Mm-hmm.
work that you were born to do. It just really feels that way. So I love that you said it. And so give us a sense. You've talked a bit about, you know, the results that you saw with the artist Demystified, but give us a sense of the types of results that your clients are seeing with these projects.
Well, these days I try and shift the focus away from the numbers and more onto the relationship side of things. I don't personally think it's healthy to get fixated on the numbers. And also the online landscape has changed dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years, and people are much more reticent to hand over their email address for anything. So, even the biggest names out there are not filling programs and free challenges and things the way that they used to. But what is coming through very strongly in the online marketing world at the moment is that relationship-based marketing and anything kind of human-focused, people-focused is where people have the edge these days.
Yeah.
So what I try and get my clients to focus on is making sure that they are attracting through the theme and the strategy behind the project, to make sure that they are attracting exactly the right sort of people, the people that they really want to work with, people that they really want to collaborate with, the people that they really want to have in their world. So we're looking at raising your profile amongst your peers, for example. So one of my clients she's just been through the process, just done her project. And one of her kind of key objectives was to be thought of as more of a thought leader. She wanted to kind of show really strongly kind of what her values were and what her mission was. And as a result of doing the project and connecting with the people that she asked to participate in the project, she's now been asked to do like guest expert slots and to do joint ventures and to do collaborations and paid work that she can do in collaboration with other people, which is kind of one of her top objectives. And also, it's really, I mean, the projects bring the people, and what I do is I help craft the strategy that brings the right people. But it's up to the individual to kind of what they do with it from there, And what I always advise is to actually reach out and speak to people individually. That's how I do it, my business. So I now have a list of people who are really excited about growing a community, building an audience in this kind of introvert-friendly, soulful, ethical, relationship-focused way. So I'm in the process of building relationships with those new people. And doing what I would normally do to create clients out of that pool of people. So it's the results that people get are very much dependent on what they want to do with the people that they draw in,
And also something, because we're going to shift into the art of connection and talking a bit more about the connection side, but something, because that's the class that you've wonderfully created for us inside the academy, and going through some of the video, you talk about intention. And so what I find is, and maybe you didn't say this, but I'm guessing, knowing this about you, that when we focus on the numbers, with anything that we do, if we do a community project just to get 1,000 new subscribers on our list, it not
flop.
Exactly, because the intention is off. But if we do it to be, I talk about, connecting for the sake of connection. There's a wonderful video that I share with everybody I know, where
the light bulb one.
Yeah, John P. Morgan, he's wonderful, and he has like light bulbs, and he's like, what about if we see our connections as light bulbs, and we're testing the bulbs and plugging them in just because we like light, And I love that, and I know that you're on the same page with that. So that's part of it too, isn't it? That
absolutely, absolutely. And the community projects, they give you a longer string of bulbs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How wonderful. So I don't know if you can hear the wind. It's like so windy here, so hopefully that's not too hard. Yeah. So connection, because you and I, connection is so important to me. It's a fundamental value I build my business on. It's why I was so excited to be invited into your project, and it's why I'm so excited about everything that you're doing in the world. And why I've invited you to do a class called The Art of Connection. So because, you know, I know that there are people watching this that may think, oh, connection, you know, what we're talking about really is networking. You know, tell us in a nutshell what you mean when you talk about connection. So, you know, in that first thing that I read out at the beginning, you know, fostering authentic human connections with like-minded people is the fastest and easiest and most heart-centered way for you to build your business. Like, tell us more about that. What does that mean?
Well, I see connection, the way that I do the kind of connection and the outreach and the way I run my business and the way I work with clients, I basically just want to have lovely conversations with amazing people where I share what I know. Like that's how I approach my client work. That's how I approach finding people to talk to. And the single best thing I have ever done for any business I have ever run has been just to talk to people and to not, I think networking feels like there's a kind of quid pro quo involved, like you want to get something from people, you want to, I don't know, it feels kind of grabby, I suppose. I do use the word networking in my work because it's kind of a shorthand so people kind of instantly understand what it is, but it's a different energy completely.
Well, I don't know if you've heard this, but one of my mentors, George Cow, describes what you're talking about with the art connection. Instead of networking, he calls it net caring, which
net caring.
Isn't it wonderful? I think that's.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what. We're
because you are creating a network. You are kind of weaving a web of wonderful people, but the relationships that I help people to develop are mutually beneficial relationships with people, with kindred spirits, with people who feel like friends. And I help people to hone what I call their kindred spirit radar. Because particularly for introverts, you know, we have such limited peopling energy, social energy, that it really matters. Like it's make or break that you're speaking to people who inspire you and fill you up, and that you can have those kind of crazy, deep, intense conversations with, rather than just kind of awkward chit chat because they might know someone who can help you somewhere down the road. You know, it's not about that. And again, it boils down to intention. If you go in with the idea that you just want to make a connection with an awesome human being, and see where it goes, like not prejudging it as, oh, I want this person to be a client, or I want this person to get me on that podcast, or I want this person to introduce me to so-and-so, but just go in and just glory in the wonderful human being that you have in front of you. Try and make a really deep connection, and see what happens. And if you approach it this way, then I guarantee that magic, because I've seen it in my own business, I've seen it in, you know, my clients' businesses, I've seen it in everybody who follows this kind of method. It's not really a method, it's just a way of doing things, a way of being.
Well, you and I are living proof of it, because I remember, you know, being introduced to this idea of connection, you know, and coming from a place of service and connecting, you know, for the magic of it, you know, to be more connected and be more open. And I was in that working, you know, under the advice of my then business coach back, I think it was either the end of 2014 or early 2015. I don't remember, when I reached out to you, and look at the magic that's unfolded from that. I mean, who would have known we'd be here 4 or 5 years later? I mean, I just love it.
No, it's fantastic.
So you touched on something that I want to dig into a little bit, because you said, you know, as introverts, which I know I am, you are, many of our audience definitely are. Because, you know, what do you say to people who are introverted, who the idea of connecting with lots of people, you know, feels just the thought of it feels tiring, like overwhelming? Like what do you say to those people?
I would say to not think about connecting with lots of people, and think about having really deep quality connections with a few people. Because once you have developed that really deep quality connection, it doesn't require so much energy to keep it going. It's like spinning a plate, you know. I mean, I have a very dear friend of mine who I absolutely adore, who we only actually speak to each other like once every couple of years. And when we do, it's fantastic, and we're right back into it, and we chat and chat and chat, and we're on the phone for like 3 hours or something. And then, you know, there might be the odd like or comment or something on social media, but we're not really talking to each other. And that works perfectly for both of us. Like, that's the pace of that relationship. It's kind of, it's slow, and it's got room for the connection to kind of ebb and flow, if you like. And I think those are the relationships that introverts most thrive in, are the ones where there's no pressure. Like, you don't have to be talking to someone every week or every day or even every month, you know, but you know that connection is solid because they're a kindred spirit, you know, and you know that you could not speak to them for a year and then shoot them an email and they'd be like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you, let's have a chat.
Yeah.
And I think focusing on that instead of, oh my God, I've got to connect with lots of people, is you just connect with one person at a time. And it feels good. And then if you've got this kindred spirit radar super honed, you'll spot people and you'll know you're one of mine. And then you can reach out to them. And it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I've got to connect with this person because I need to connect with, you know, 50 people this month. It's just, I want you in my life. Like, let's talk, let's get connected, let's have a chat, you know? And it's a completely different energy. Again, it kind of turns it on its head. And I found, like, the more amazing people I find, the more amazing people I find.
Yeah. They're connected to amazing people.
Exactly.
No, it's true.
Opportunities just come out of those conversations. I get more business and more opportunities from reaching out to someone I don't know who feels like they might be a kindred spirit and saying, let's have a chat, like, let's have a virtual coffee date, than I do from any other business marketing activity I do.
I love that. And so, I mean, because what we're talking about here is, you know, the energy of it, the kind of the principle of it, the importance of it. And I know, for example, in the class for the academy that you go into the practicalities, but just for people watching this who might be thinking, well, how do I even connect? You know, where do I even start? What do you have any advice for that? Like, what does it mean when you, for example, reach out to someone you don't know? What does that look like?
It varies from person to person. I think the most important thing that people can kind of start doing is tuning in to that little ping you get in your brain when you see someone who you feel like, I really want to get to know this person. And that's kind of key to the whole thing. And I recommend that people kind of start by examining the relationships that they have in their life that feel the best, like the people that they're really, really happy that they're connected with. And it could be friends, it could be in a business context. For me, there's not really any difference between that. But yeah, to think about those connections that they have already and think back, like, how they met that person, where they found that person, how they got connected, and to try and maybe kind of recreate those circumstances if they can. So if they, for example, were introduced by a mutual friend, then perhaps they could go back to that friend and say, do you know anybody else that, you know, you think I would get on really well with? The people who you love, like you just said, the people who you love probably are connected to other people that you will love. Yeah. So another great way to do it is someone that you really, really love following on Instagram, for example. Have a look at who else is following them, because if you've got that common interest, then it's likely that there will be other people that you want to connect with in there. And like I said, it's not about connecting with as many people as possible, but you do have to do like a little bit of detective work while you're getting that kindred spirit radar honed. Like, you have to look at, you know, what attracts me to people. Is it, for me, I know that it's a very kind of intangible energy, and it's the same with the people that I want to work with when I'm vetting kind of clients that want to work with me. there's this intangible energy that I just know that's going to be a good fit, that's going to be a great person to work with, or connect with, or whatever. Those ideal client avatars that all the business courses tell you to do never worked for me.
No.
It's the energy of the person. That's how I know they're my ideal client. So just kind of doing what introverts do best and going inwards and feeling like, okay, how does this feel? How does it feel to me when I meet someone that I really like? And, how can I make that feeling more prevalent so I can recognize it when it pops up? Because your intuition will very, very rarely steer you wrong. Most of the time it's bang on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. What's coming up for me as you talk, I mean, I love everything that you said. And I remember, for example, when I reached out to you, it was very much that sense of, I got a bit emotional earlier when you said, you're one of mine, because I thought that feeling, it's that, I mean, we, as introverts, I think, anybody, but as introverts, especially, that finding those people that we really feel are our kind of people, I think is so special. And so, for example, what I did with you, just to give a practical example, is, I read your article on my morning routine. There were definite things that we had in common, and I loved your art. And I just, I knew, I saw you and I thought, she's one of mine. And I can't remember exactly the details, but I dropped you a line and said, I loved your article. We have this in common, and I love your art, and that sparked, a relationship, and we had conversations, and, here we are today.
And I've just invited you to my wedding.
Yes, I know. I love it, which I can't wait to come to. But for example, I can imagine that some people watching this might think, oh, I wouldn't, I would find it hard to reach out to somebody that I don't know. And, what would I say? And are they going to think that I'm, what they're going to think? They're not going to want to get to know me and all of that stuff. And I just wonder if you have any advice for that. I think just the what would I say, when I advise this approach with my clients, kind of, let's get connected and get you open to connection. I think that's, the thing that I think is super important. People struggle with that. I don't actually know what to say. What's your advice for that?
Hello is a really good way to start. I think the simplest thing to say is to just say hello, tell them that you love what they're doing. If you want to connect with them, then you probably love what they're doing. So tell them that, and point out something specific that you really love. Like, social media is a brilliant place to do this because it's very casual. Like email feels a bit more, I can't think of exactly the right word. Maybe formal? Yeah. Whereas social media, the disposability of it can work in your favor if you're a bit shy or you feel a bit awkward. So I would say that, hello, I really love what you're doing. Your last post about, such and such really spoke to me. I do exactly the same thing. I think you're really cool. I'd love to get to know you better. Like, hello, can we be friends? Yeah. And it will vary from person to person. I would suggest that people kind of don't go straight in and say, let's have a chat, like let's get on a call or something, because although most of us on social media are genuine, there are a lot of people out there, and people are a little bit suspicious if you go kind of straight in with something like that. So once I've sent that initial, hello, I think you're awesome message, I would keep following them, and I generally stay connected by replying to stories. Because if you reply to a story, that goes straight into their private message box, so it keeps the conversation going.
So this is on Instagram?
On Instagram. Instagram is my favorite place to connect. It's my only social media platform that I'm active on. And this is how I do it. So you send a message, hi, I think you're awesome. Then you reply to stories, because that is them starting a conversation with the world. Like, they're making the first move by publishing something like that. So you reply to that and see how it goes. Like if you're replying to their story and then they're replying back to you and you're replying back to them and you're getting a rapport going, conversation going, then at some point it's going to feel natural, like, oh my God, we've got so much to talk about. I want to, like, can we have a call? And if you're not getting any responses back, if they're not replying to you, or if you're getting like one word answers or an emoji or something back, then you want to think like either just let it go or just kind of ease up, and you know, it might take much longer and you kind of lessen the intensity of what you're doing. But it's just not to put too much pressure on any one connection. And I advise that when people are kind of first out doing this, that they send out a ton of messages. Because if you send out a ton of messages, you can't keep track of all of them in your head, which means you can't obsess and overthink and worry about any one person. Because, you know, half the time you can't even remember who you sent messages to. If you send it out to one really, really special person, then you're just going to be like so focused and intense on that one person. You're going to come off as kind of creepy stalker, whether you want to or not.
I usually advise my clients to reach out to 50 people in 7 days. That's my connection challenge, because it's just enough that, you know, they can't, and also they can't obsess over the message that they send, you know. It's just like, okay, I've just got to get this done. You just
get it out there, and then you see what comes back to you, and you respond from that. So it's not like you're following a script. It's just, you know, you send it out into the universe and you see what comes back.
It's basically how we make relationships in real life. Exactly.
It's
just like, you know.
Out of 50 messages that you send out, you might end up having coffee dates with 5 of those people. And of 5 of those people, you might end up having really amazing relationships with 3 of them. And those 3 people will, you know, you will fall in love with each other, and you will, you know, you'll be referring clients to each other. They will have you on their podcast, and whatever. The opportunities will pile up. But unless you do the 50, you can't get the 3.
And that response, because one of the pieces that I really loved in your community project was from Heidi Taylor, who is one of these women that I fell in love with online, reached out, you know, we have a great relationship now. And her piece was about little yeses, which I really love. And, you know, it just speaks to, it's that, you know, are you checking in to see what kind of response you get? And you know, it just, it's what I said earlier about real relationships. If someone is aloof or, you know, they're not forthcoming, then you don't, you know, you probably don't waste too much time with that. But, you know, if you think about it as being at a party and you strike up a conversation with somebody who looks interested and they're just like giving you one word answers, then it's, you know, okay, this is,
what's the point?
Exactly.
It's no fun for you. And they're obviously not into it, so let it go. I always recommend people like channel their inner Labrador. If you watch Labradors, they'll bound up to people like other dogs, and they're wagging their tail and they're full of enthusiasm. They're like, hello. And then if you're not interested, they just bound up to somebody else. Like there's no loss of enthusiasm. There's no like hard feelings or anything like that. It's just, okay, you're not interested, fine. There's like a million bums to sniff out there.
I love that. I love it.
Just, you know, bound up to people, wagging your tail, and if they're not interested, go and find somebody else. It's all good. I love it. Your right people will find you if you're putting out that open to connection energy into the world.
Something that I found, I don't know if you found this with your clients and personally, but something I found that when I'm in, I call it outreach, you know, when I'm in outreach mode, and I'm connecting with people, and reconnecting with people, you know, so a lot of the time I spend, you know, going back to old clients and checking in to see how they are and all of that stuff, because that's super important to me. What I find is then incoming connections from people I don't know anything, you know, often I'll get new business or opportunities coming at me that are nothing to do with the connection I've been cultivating or the outreach that I've been doing. And that happens every single time.
Mm-hmm.
which I find, I mean, my theory is that when we're, energetically, when we're open to connection, then, just
Mm-hmm.
the universe, brings forth people, and people feel it. People feel the
Mm-hmm.
energy that we're open, and we're open to being connected. But have you found that? Does that?
Oh, absolutely. Like any time I put energy into really kind of moving the needle on my business, so connecting with people or pitching for things or kind of putting myself out there into the world, then that comes back to me, and it's often not in the thing that I've been like putting the energy into. It will come in from the side and be something completely different. And I love that. I think that that's magic. So, and I know now, like, I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 12 years. When I feel stuck, when like it's nothing happening, like I'm not getting the clients in that I want and things feel kind of stagnant, I know it's because I'm not putting enough energy into like the external thing, like being open and showing up basically.
Yeah.
And that's not like publishing a blog post isn't really enough because that's so safe.
Yeah.
You need to kind of you need to push yourself a little bit. You need to kind of get out of your comfort zone and really be like, I'm here, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then it comes back.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now we're going to wrap up soon, but I did have another question for you, which was you talked earlier about this connection piece being the absolute best way that you found to grow your business. But is there anything that, for the people watching this video, is there anything that you would add into that? Like, is there anything specifically alongside connection that you do to grow your business?
I do. I mean, I blog fairly sporadically. I'm on Instagram fairly sporadically, but there I'm mostly just talking to people. I appear on podcasts where I'm having a conversation that's being recorded and broadcast. Seriously, every single thing that I do to market my business comes down to having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
It's especially, I think, if you're just starting out, it's the only thing you need to be worried about. Like, don't worry about having a landing page and a free download ebook. Like, don't worry about having a perfect email sequence. Don't worry about blogging on the regular or anything like that. Just talk to people. Yeah. Just talk to people. Every single time I get on the phone with someone, have a virtual coffee date, something happens. I'll get the opportunity to be on a podcast or be in a book or be promoted in some way, or it will directly lead to a client. Like, either they will say, oh my God, I really want to work with you after hearing about what you do. Or they'll say, oh, I know someone who really needs to work with you. Like, have you spoken to so-and-so? Yeah. And that's it. That's, if you think about the time before we had the internet, before we had social media, before we had blogging, when I kind of first started up on my own, I think Twitter was a thing. But in terms of online marketing, if you had a Twitter account for your business, you were streets ahead. And the way, I mean, I built a profitable business in 5 months by going out and speaking to people. Yeah. That was the only thing. I didn't even have a website. I didn't even have a business plan or an idea or anything that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And yeah, 5 months, profitable business. And I think a lot of people get hung up on all the things that you can do on the internet to market your business. And they forget that fundamentally, all marketing is telling people what you do. That's basically it. And if you can find a way that works for you to do that, then that's all you need to worry about. Everything else is just a tool to help make that more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much, Ellie, because, I mean, it's so in line with, what I advise my clients, but this idea that, people get so hung up on marketing. And I always say, how about, because, I had it recently on a call, someone was saying, I don't feel good about marketing to, and there was a group of people she had in mind. And I said, how about we reframe marketing to connecting with? Like, what would that mean for your business? you know, what would that mean for what you do? And so, yeah, I agree with absolutely everything you're saying. And it's the same for me. When I first started my coaching business back in 2014, it was very much, I mean, I did it slightly differently to you know, to what you're talking about. And I do more of that now, but I was offering free sessions. It was like, you know, free sessions.
Same thing, basically.
Yeah, you know, and I coached hundreds of people. And, you know, again, within probably a similar time frame, 5 months, my client roster was full. You know, I was making very good money. It was kind of crazy. And it was, you know, but it was that showing up. I mean, there were days when I had 5 calls in a day, you know.
Today, actually, I have 5 calls.
Oh, really?
I have this interview with you, and then I have 4 virtual coffee dates.
Oh,
and I'm going to be knackered at the end of the day, but I'm so excited to see what happens, what comes out of those connections. I'm so excited to speak to every single one of those people.
Yeah, what comes up for me is knackered and fulfilled, because what you know, to have 5 interesting conversations with people who you think are amazing. I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream, and then to make money from it. You know, I love it.
Exactly.
Oh, how wonderful! Thank you so much. So, a couple of things. Obviously, we've got the Art of Connection class coming up inside the Academy with you, which is very exciting. And also, is there anything you want to share with people? Either something that's coming up in your business, a project, or you know, the best way for people to be in touch with, to connect with you. Like,
I mean, the best way for people to connect with me is to come find me on Instagram, or come over to my website, which is elitriercommunities.com, and sign up for my Sunday letters. I send out a letter every single Sunday, and it is full of the best resources on the internet for communicating with people, getting connected. I do go off on a bit of a tangent sometimes to talk about like the state of business in general, but it's a brilliant newsletter. So come on over and do that. Huh?
I agree. I love your Sunday newsletter. I read it every week.
I love putting it together. It's so much fun. And yeah, I'm Eli Trier Communities on Instagram, and come follow me and send me a message and say hello. Come wag your tail at me. Yeah, I do have a program which I'm kind of putting together a beta version of at the moment, which kind of follows on from that Art of Connection class that I did for you. So it's like the next step, which I'm working on at the moment. But if you sign up for the Sunday letters, all the details for that will be announced as I release them.
Wonderful. I'm very excited about your new project. Very excited. Oh, Eli, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, as always, to talk to you today. And thank you for coming and sharing what you know about connection with my people.
Huge pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.